Hey everyone. So today we're going to be starting our next training month. So I always like to start off a new training phase with a bit of a program breakdown. And if you're not interested in seeing sort of what's coming up next and doing a bit of a deep dive into the program, you can just use the timestamps in the description or on your little menu bar and skip ahead to our sessions, which are pretty fun because we're training at Montreal in this episode. So having a look at the program. So obviously we just finished our first month of training, and I guess I need to mention, you may be wondering why we have a few videos missing. So I guess the last episode that came out was this day of training, the grotto bouldering session, and then our workout. So I had a rest day, and then what I did was I went and I had a moonboard session with Ben, and I actually started filming that. I felt really bad in the session, and I had to call it a bit early. And then what happened as well is our videographer bailed on this session here, the Boulder night at Grand River Rocks, like their little fun comp event. And so I didn't actually end up getting any footage from there. And then the video, like this like garbage little moonboard session that was like 10 minutes long or something, wasn't enough for a video. And so there was no video from this session. And then I decided not to do a COMPCLIMB episode for the top rock session because Maddie did her own video and she produced that. So that's sort of how my training month ended. And then I was supposed to do another week of training, actually. This rest week wasn't supposed to be here. I moved it up early, and there were a couple reasons for this. First, I actually started to develop a couple tweaks. Like I just started to adjust to the training volume, like I was saying, but what happened was I developed a tweak in my pointer finger, my thumb, and my palm on my right hand, all in like one day. And then throughout the whole rest week, I was hoping that it would be gone by the time I started climbing again. And I was a bit worried, like hopefully I didn't injure anything too seriously. And at the time I'm recording this, I have already done my sessions at Montreal, and it was fine. So it was perfect timing to actually move up the rest week so that I could let a few nagging injuries heal. And then I also needed to move up the rest week because I had to add some competitions and smaller events into the program. And so basically what I had to do, so you'll notice this year's new, this training camp in Ottawa. Someone reached out to Maddie and I, and we're going to take part in like this sort of training camp with some other Canadian team members in Ottawa, and that's going to be fun. And then the HB comp was announced and confirmed. So this competition is like another event that's used to select Canadians for the national team. So it gives us opportunities to earn points to go to World Cups. So we weren't sure if that was going to happen this year, so I didn't add it into the original program, but now it is in, so I have to move things around a bit. And then I also took a look at the USA Climbing, and I was actually able to find the date of the first North American Cup, which is going to be in Salt Lake. So that was actually really helpful. So now I have like I know when to start. I need to start peaking and entering a high performance mode. So yeah, basically out of the training camp, high performance comp, and then the North American Cup. So now we have like actually quite a few like events coming up. Some are more just for fun, and some we're trying to focus on doing well. Like these first couple here, the training camp and the dark horse, just sort of for fun. The training camp is probably going to be a good experience, but we don't need to, like, there's no pressure basically. And then the HB comp, there's a bit of pressure. Obviously we want to earn some points, do well. Dark horse championship, probably more for fun. And then after this, I'll be training power for a couple months during these sort of less intense or less pressure phases, except obviously the high performance comp, we want to do a bit of performance because I want to do well at that. So I'm giving myself like a little week where I just dedicate to bouldering and comp simulations. But then for the most part, we're going to be training power until we get closer to the North American Cup, when we're going to switch it up to more performance-based training. And obviously I will write that training when we get closer to it. But yeah, I had to sort of add these events in and break up the training up until the first North American Cup into more smaller sections. So there's actually more training phases now, but they're shorter. And they're all, what I was able to do as well, which I'm really happy about, is make them all 3 training weeks followed by a rest week, which I think was important. And I realized my mistake after just doing this first month of training. I was like, after 3 weeks, I was super tired, and I wanted a rest week by after 3 weeks, when it was initially going to be 4 weeks of training and then a rest week. So I learned my mistake, and I need to make sure that I try my best not to push 3 weeks of training before I have one of my rest weeks. And it's also a mental factor as well. I find that I just mentally, I need a rest week after 3 weeks of training because I can start to get burnt out. And I'm always trying to strive for longevity, and it's important to optimize when mentally when you have to, so that you don't burn out. You want to keep training, keep getting better in the long run. So that's basically the gist of like the broader training leading up to the first North American Cup. But let's take a more specific look into the next training phase that we're about to enter for the next 3 weeks. So you'll notice it has a bit of a funky start. Just a couple days of bouldering. This is because on the 29th and 30th, Maddie and I are going to do a quick little Montreal run, and this is to look at apartments. So obviously we're going to move to Montreal. We're going to try and do it at the beginning of February, and we set up a few viewings. And Montreal is just a 6-hour drive from Toronto. So what we do is we just drive down there for a couple of days, get an Airbnb, and then we have like a bunch of viewings to go peek at in between training. So not only can I can't really start off with this very intense program, as you can see, because we just won't have time to do all this training when we're trying to go see viewings as well. It's going to be very busy. But also I'm coming off of a pretty intense rest week and after some intense training. So I kind of actually want to just do some more chill bouldering sessions to ease my way into the program. So when we're looking at the training week, the biggest difference that you'll notice right off the bat between this cycle and the last cycle is how the workout is actually spread out between all of the sessions. So I like to do this periodically in certain training phases. Instead of doing like, my military press, pistol squat, bench press, jump squat, dips, and deadlift, all in like one session and as one big workout, what this effect does as well sometimes is it feels like a big workout, and it feels like it can be really, it can actually feel like high volume training. And so there are a couple reasons that it can be beneficial to spread them out like this. One, we can sort of have more time to focus on one exercise, be a bit fresher and put more effort into one exercise. Whereas, in a big long workout, you can sort of just be trying to go through the motions, get the workout over with, and then start half-assing exercises. And then it also just makes it feel like less of a high volume training phase. I feel like when I'm doing these sessions, like I'm sort of just counting down the time until I have to go do like the big workout, and it can be very scary to do a big workout like this. And it can make me feel like I'm in a high volume training phase. And your mental state does affect like your body physically, and it can just affect your training. And so if I have like this big scary workout scaring me all the time, it doesn't feel like a low volume training phase. And it's important to feel like it's a bit of a lower volume when it is supposed to be. So this is like a medium volume, that being said. We're not in a low volume training phase because we're not trying to peak yet, but it's like a medium volume. So what I want to do is I want to make the workload also feel like it's medium volume. And I find when I do just have to do like, one exercise at the end, after I do like a campus session or, a boulder session, it feels a lot more digestible to do all of these exercises. So, and it's a lot of fun too. I like to sort of just focus on one exercise, and I like to experiment with this from time to time. So yeah, we're spreading out all our exercises between all of our sessions instead of doing them all as one big workout. And then our reps will change a little bit as well. So yeah, that is kind of the gist of this next training cycle. Some power training, 3 weeks long, dividing out all the exercises from our workout over all of our bouldering and climbing sessions is going to be a lot of really nice. And this will be our last training cycle while we're here in Ontario. And then we'll probably have a little bit of training in Ontario, like at the beginning of here. And then we'll try to move in around February 1st. We have to still work it out with some apartments. But yeah, let's just jump in. So basically this episode is going to highlight these days here, these 2 days, just a couple of days of climbing in Montreal, just sort of bouldering, getting the body going, having some fun sessions while we look at apartments. And then we'll start the meat of our training later. But let's jump into some fun sessions at Allez Up in Montreal. Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a 22-year-old competitive bowler from Canada, currently living near Toronto. Welcome back to the COMPCLIMB training series, where I record most of my training, provide in-depth analysis of every session, and just chat about climbing with an emphasis on competition. So we are jumping right into our session here at Allez Up. This is the Mile End location. They have 3 locations of Allez Up. I love Allez Up. All the gyms are very reliable. I always know what I'm getting. They have a lot of nice comp style boulders, lots of hard boulders, and they're all, 2 of them are boulder only, and then 1 has some lead walls. So they're very dedicated to comp style bouldering, which is the theme with a lot of the gyms here in Montreal, which is why we want to move here. So some context for the session. The difficulty of the boulders is determined by the tape grade. So in this gym, white tape is the hardest, followed by pink tape, which is the second hardest, and then black tape is the third hardest, and red is below that. Usually during our boulder sessions, we'll be sticking to like black, pink, and white. It's not often that I try the red tapes during the session, just because the upper 3 grades are what I usually stick to. You'll notice on this boulder, I'm skipping this crimp at the end. While I was climbing, Maddie was yelling at me saying, "Hey, Zach, skip the crimp, do the pure pinch line." And Maddie and I got a send train of this boulder. But yeah, this is obviously our first session back after the rest week. And it's always very hit or miss with me. You'll notice from previous day ones off of rest week, sometimes I'm able to bounce back really fast and have like even a good session for my first session of the day, and I can feel quite strong and be able to climb decently. I remember there was when we came back to Germany after being here in Montreal for a couple weeks for Jackalope. I remember even session 1 after the rest week was really good. I felt really strong and I was able to have like quite a good bouldering session. But sometimes most of the time, it's usually the way it should be, which is that I feel like quite toast. And that was the case today. I definitely wanted to avoid very intense crimping for this session. You'll notice on some of these boulders, I have like a crimp or two, but for the most part, I wanted to avoid super intense crimping. And that's usually what I do, even if I'm feeling decent on the first session back after rest week. And then usually by session 2, I'll be feeling better and I can try crimpy boulders, which was the case today. So yeah, this first session, I was feeling quite bad. And I think I was talking to Maddie a bit about this, and I think she sort of nailed it. She said, you know, the times that I felt really good after a rest week, I wasn't necessarily coming off of a high volume training phase. And obviously the past month of training we were doing was very intense. And so my body was in like super recovery mode for this last rest week. And it was like, it didn't want to be woken up today when I asked it to climb again. It was still trying to recover from all the intense training. But Allez Up has a lot of comp style boulders, some funky moves, as you can see. And so I was able to have a boulder session since I couldn't obviously climb on 2 physically intense boulders today, I could stick to sort of more open hand stuff, some more body based stuff, at least for this first session. That being said, this boulder that we're trying now, I thought I would be able to perform a bit better on, because obviously it's not that physically intense, at least on the grip strength, which is where I was feeling like I was most lacking in this session. But it was actually pretty intense on the wrists. I'll revisit that boulder in the second session. But yeah, that was a cool one. And so this boulder that we're trying here ends up being the last boulder of the session. So I put 1 attempt on the slab here. You'll notice this right hand that I'm trying to grab, it's a bit too intense on the fingers for the session. So I had to call it a bit short, and I hopefully would be able to revisit that boulder when I was feeling better in the next session. So here we are for session 2. Rested for about 3 hours, and what was fun is in between the sessions, Maddie and I went and looked at a couple apartments. Obviously, we're here for a couple days looking for an apartment, so we ran around a little bit in between sessions. It wasn't actually super restful, but we are back now for another session. The move that you're about to see on your screen is we're gearing up for what we see looks like a sort of toe catch move, and that's how I read the boulder. And if you remember, probably like a couple weeks ago, I had a video that was, the theme of that training day was the one boulder in particular that Hamish set for me back at Boulder House. And it was a toe catch, because toe catches are a very prominent weakness of mine that I'm noticing. And I asked Hamish to set me like a really hard one for me to work on. And I tried a bunch of times and I couldn't actually do it as a toe catch. So what I did is I decided to use a strength of mine and apply it to the weakness move being the toe catch. And I did the toe catch as like a toe catch hybrid. And so instead of trying the toe hook move on this boulder, actually first I decided that I actually wanted to try it as a heel catch first, since I really learned that I can find success with it. So yeah, this move that we're gearing up for is I'm going to attempt it with a heel catch first. So let's check out how this actually plays out. So I go to try this move as a heel catch, and it works immediately. I was kind of happy to see that the plan that I set out to do initially worked right away. And I think and you can see here, I'm like campusing a couple moves just to sort of minimize the amount of swing I have, like I was talking about. And I think the moral of the story is that I just need to like develop an intuition for this move sizing of moves. Like if a move is going to suit a heel catch or a toe catch more. That move definitely looked a bit crunched to do a toe catch for me. So I decided to try the heel hook right away, and I found success with it, which was pretty fun. Now here we are going backwards on this white tape. So if you remember, white tape is the hardest, and I had a couple of these up in the gym. And this one, my initial read of this boulder was that it looked like a turnaround move, and then basically kind of reach out to this crimp and get it with your right hand and take a swing out of that position. And I think my intuition tells me that that is probably the sequence the setter is going for, especially because it's a white tape and it's supposed to be like quite hard. But I was not necessarily didn't have the most sauce today for this session. So I didn't think that I was going to be able to take the crazy one arm swing off this hold with my right hand, like from face out. So I didn't quite try that. I'm able to take a sort of semi one arm swing from this position, but with like a little bit of support from the volume in my right hand, obviously. And then because I was kind of stuck and I couldn't really match that hold, you can see I'm going for this crazy shadow match. And I'd say that I often try to avoid like super intense like piano matches on tiny crimps like this, just because it's sort of an injury prevention thing. I feel like if I'm gonna hurt my fingers on a boulder, it's gonna probably be from, trying to piano match a really small hold like that. So I immediately just said I'm gonna try and shadow match this hold. And it ends up working here on the Sengo. And so now that is this boulder is gonna feature today's tip of the day. And it's not gonna be as basic as shadow matching. We covered shadow matching actually in a previous tip of the day a while ago, and the tip of the day from that video was how to shadow match effectively and optimally. The how to shadow match properly and optimally, most of the time it is like a foot match, where you stack your other hand on top of your hand that's on the hold, and you simply slide out your bottom hand, and then your top one will slide onto the hold and grab it, and there's no sort of like, crazy air time and having to catch a hold really aggressively. But on this hold, actually, the reason I couldn't do that, I felt it initially when I tried to shadow match, but then you can see I immediately started doing this. And what I realized is that this hold is actually a bit sharp. So it's quite positive, and it's a bit in-cut. And so because it's sharp like this, I don't want to sort of slide my hand off of it for a couple reasons. One, it's going to hurt. I don't want to like shred my skin on this sort of knife and just slide it off of it. And then two, it actually doesn't really slide. It's sort of, the hold is so sharp that it's almost like a hook. And so I can't slide my hand down and off of it. And so I actually need to sort of remove my hand from this position and then catch it again. And it does require a bit more grip power to do it like this, but it's the way I had to. And so if you are in a scenario where this is the case and you have to do this sort of big hand swap, you'll notice on this attempt when I'm about to execute the move, you want to catch it at the apex of your momentum, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my other arm, I'm going to sort of swing, catch the moment, like at the very apex, I do the hand swap, and then I fall back and my hand's already on the hold, hopefully well. So yeah, tip of the day is if you're in this situation where you can't do like the sort of foot swap shadow match, make sure you're at the apex of your body being close to the wall and as much of your momentum being absorbed in sort of that zero gravity moment to catch the hold, and then you can, obviously engage and then continue with your climb. So let's check that out. So, yep, I am not down to sort of try and piano match this hold. That's what we're doing. And also, you'll notice that I'm taking the swing now with a hand stack, which is also more effective than doing like a one hand swing that I was trying to do previously. And so yeah, we do that shadow match. I successfully catch the hold at the apex of my swing, and it lands pretty good. But honestly, this is sort of a flashy way to get around what you could say is a weakness of mine. I don't know if I would call it a weakness, but it's just like my climbing style is probably a lot of lighter climbers and sort of just crimpier climbers with sort of tendons to spare. Could probably just do a nasty little piano match and shimmy around on that hold because it was quite positive. But A, my tendons probably aren't stable enough to do that comfortably, and B, I don't want to hurt myself, so I have to try and find a different optimal way to match that hold, and the shadow match is the way I found. So this is the other white tape that was up in the gym. Since I had just done a few physical boulders and I was kind of at the apex of my session, I decided I would probably be able to put a couple tries on this. I said 3 max, and it ended up being 3. There was no way I was probably going to be able to put a 4th on this boulder. It was very intense on the fingers. I definitely felt good enough to try this boulder, but I didn't quite have the sauce to really work this one super hard today. So I just gave it a few tries and had to call it. So we moved on to this boulder, which was quite the nice contrast from little micro crimp after little micro crimp. That being said, I was probably struggled with this boulder a bit more than the other boulder. This one was actually less of my style than the micro crimps, and I've mentioned this previously that these sort of like really wrist intensive slopers are quite hard for me. I feel like my wrists aren't super strong, and this boulder was very wrist intensive and I had a really hard time with it. I didn't have like the absolute maximum sauce today to be performing at my best, obviously because we were just coming off of rest week and off of a high volume training phase as well. So that's sort of why I wasn't feeling the best today, I think. But even under normal circumstances, I don't think I would have been performing too much better on this boulder, just because it was like super anti-style. Like these dual tech slopers in particular, I remember trying a boulder at Beta Block a while ago when we were here in Montreal for Jackalope, and with these dual tech slopers, these exact holds, and I really struggled with it. And I was finding the same case today. They never felt good in any sort of way that I was grabbing them. And so I need to train on these holds more specifically, honestly, because if they show up in a competition, I feel like I will be scared of them. But yeah, I'm able to do the beginning sequence after a few tries of learning how to like sort of jump up to this move. I definitely never felt super comfortable. But this ending sequence, I never really found a sequence that was super obvious. After trying it a few times, I definitely realized I wasn't going to be able to static the move. And I think if I was going to be able to do that move, it would have been with some sort of dyno like that. Unfortunately, we won't be having another boulder session at this gym while we're here. So we'll just have to call that one a failure and come back to Montreal later on with a vengeance for this line of slopers, because they're really hard for me. So we moved on to this boulder. I only gave it 1 try in the morning session, and so I wanted to work it a bit more, obviously, now. And we had about 15 minutes to work with on this boulder. I wanted to try and not go over time. I'm known for going over time a lot in my boulder sessions, and going forward, I want to start keeping it a bit more under control. So I was prepared to not go over time, even if it meant not setting this boulder. And so what I was realizing while I was trying the slab was that my slab skills are quite rusty. And I'm not too surprised by this either. It's very self-explanatory. The training that we've been doing for the past month has all been sort of on the steep. And even when we've been having our boulder sessions, Ontario just doesn't have a lot of slab boulders. So obviously even during our boulder sessions, we're doing like powerful style boulders. So I haven't been putting my reps in on the slab. And as the saying goes, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that's definitely that's sort of the name of the game when it comes to slab, is the more reps I put in, the better I feel in slab. And so I was just feeling insecure on my feet. I could tell that my intuition wasn't quite there. I couldn't find the optimal balance positions, and I definitely didn't feel like a good slab climber while I was trying this boulder. So I knew that there was no hope, and so I just called it and called the session at a nice hour-long session. So here we are back at Allez Up the next day. I know that I said earlier in the video that we probably wouldn't be coming back here for another boulder session, but I thought that Maddie and I would probably want to go to a different gym just to get some variety in, but it turns out we just wanted to come back to Allez Up. It was convenient and it was close and it was near the viewings that we were going to. So yeah, we just came back to Allez Up for my last boulder session before we head back to Ontario. And it would be nice too to see if I would be able to make some progress on these boulders that I tried on my first day after rest week, and see if I was feeling a bit better by day 2, which proved to be the case, as we are getting back on this crimpy boulder that I said that I'd probably only put a couple attempts on. But now that we're back at Allez Up, I have, obviously it's not a full gym of boulders anymore, so I have less boulders to sort of choose from, and I have to just stick the ones I haven't done. And so this, I had to at least put a couple tries on this, since it was a hard boulder up in the gym that I didn't have left. And as you can see, we're getting a send of it, which is pretty cool. So if you recall, white tape is the hardest tape grade in this gym. And yeah, I just felt like my fingers were a bit more stable today after one day of training and a couple sessions to get back used to it. And so I was able to get my way up that crimp line. So now this boulder was definitely going to be the focus of this session. I was talking about earlier in the video during my previous day of training yesterday. I was really struggling with this boulder, and I have actually struggled on these holds specifically a lot. These dual tech slopers have given me a lot of trouble when I've come to Montreal previously, and it's just a very anti-style boulder. This whole boulder of slopes and balancing and wrist power. So I definitely wanted to really see if I could learn something on this boulder today and make a bit of progress. And I really did learn something. And it is actually, it's not often these days that I learn a very like new potent climbing technique that is going to help me. But like you'll notice I finally stick this move here for the first time, and it has to do with the way that I actually grabbed the like a really bad sloper that I'm jumping off of. And it is something that I feel like this isn't the first time I've ever done this, but it was like really evident today, and I feel like I'm not going to forget it anytime soon because of just how well it worked today. So the way that I grab this sloper, I'm going to pause the video here as I get into position. It's kind of hard to notice, but the idea is that I was like really struggling to grab this hold in any orientation I was grabbing. I was trying to down pull like right in the middle. I was trying to just sort of wrap with my whole hand on it, and it wasn't working. And then all of a sudden I sort of accidentally started to use more of the meat of my thumb. And you know, so the position that you go into a hand jam, right? You sort of compress your the meat of your thumb with your palm, and you sort of create this arc in your hand. I started to naturally do that on this meat hook for some reason, and all of a sudden it started to feel really good. So what I do is, instead of sort of wrapping the hold just like this, I compress my thumb with my palm and I sort of create this arc. And what it does is it allows this sort of slab of skin that you're pushing in with your thumb to really almost act as like a hook. And it's this super secure feeling position that I discovered on the sloper. And obviously I gave it a tip of the day earlier in the video. But since this is technically a new day of training, I'm gonna give 2 tips of the day in this video. But yeah, I start to like feel super confident with this move every time I'm trying it, but I knew that it was going to be pretty hard to put the whole boulder together, because I still really struggle with the second move. These holds just never felt secure for me. This right hand especially is like really bad, and my wrists are just like not really strong enough to hold it confidently, so it feels like really desperate, and I just have to like fling myself up to the better one with my left hand. But yeah, you'll notice like finally we're getting a send to this boulder, and it's just, obviously I have like a different sequence that I'm using with my feet and my left hand, but all of that in combination with the new grip technique on the right hand made for like a pretty confident send to the boulder. I felt like really secure, which was cool because in the previous day of training. Every time I tried that, nothing felt secure. So we are continuing on with the session, and I had like a couple boulders that I hadn't even gotten on yesterday, including this pink tape with some pinches, very my style, managed to get a flash. It's quite fun. And then also this black tape slab that we're trying now with purple holds. I didn't quite get to it because I got quite caught up in the pink tape slab, but this slab was quite nice. I saw Maddie trying it earlier. She was using this really garbage foot, as you can see, that's sort of to the left of my left knee. And I looked at it and I said, nah, I don't really want to use it. I think I can do some sort of cool paddle, and that's what I went for. And I'd say I'm quite conscious of this in training as well, is I like to try sort of riskier elements right off the bat, even though I know that maybe it's not the most optimal way to try boulder in order to get a flash. But I feel like it's good training for competitions to sort of just naturally develop this like really good instincts for just when to commit to moves, even if it's like a risky element, because the style of the men's boulders these days in the competitions are really favor the climbers who are willing to risk it like right away on their flash go and just not hesitate for a move and like really commit. So I'm really confident, really conscious of this in my training, and I make sure that I try and commit to risky moves like right off the bat. And so that's like a little example of that. Instead of trying to really go slowly and use that bad foot, I'm just gonna try and jump right away, see if it works. But now we're back on this slab that we tried quite a bit at the end of our training day yesterday. And I was feeling a bit better on the slab today. I felt even just a tiny bit less rusty than I was in the previous day. Just even with the amount of slab practice I got in the previous day helped me feel a bit more comfortable on the slabs today. And so I was still really struggling with this boulder though. This move in the middle in particular, I think this ends up being the only move in the gym that I left unstuck. This is like the last pink tape that we have left up in the gym, and we managed to do the other white tapes and the other black tapes. But this move in the middle, this sort of stand-up move is the only move that sort of stumped me, and I had to walk away with no send-of. And I'm trying this sort of dynamic stand-up, and I want to flag my leg to the left and have my arm also flag to the left to counterbalance. But what actually I noticed was kind of tricky, a tricky element of this boulder is all these green holds on the wall to my left actually make this method that I'm going for a little bit more difficult, because I can't just sort of slide my left foot against the wall like left and just drag it into the position I want to counterbalance my sort of center of gravity, because these holds are in the way. And so I have to sort of remove my foot from the wall and take it outwards and then back in order to get into the position I want. And so it actually makes for this dynamic stand-up like not super optimal. I bet there's a different way that I could have tried this move in maybe like a more static method. I think that this, I could have maybe find success with this method if it was just this boulder on the wall and it was like a competition where those other holds weren't there, but not the case. So I had to walk away with no send on that and leave that one undone. So I wasn't quite able to conquer Alley Up Mile End this time around, which is good. Honestly, I'm psyched that they have hard slabs set. Like that's something that I'm always looking for, is gyms with hard slabs. So that's another reason that Maddie and I are psyched on Montreal, for the hard slabs. And so this ends up being the last boulder session. I just finished off with a nice, quite cool set of this black tape slab, and that wraps up all of our training in Montreal for this trip. And as you can tell by this video, I'm going to be experimenting with a new style of voiceover. So basically what I'm trying to go for is just to make it more digestible. I've been getting a lot of requests from comments and even just from people that I know that watch the videos and told me personally that they've been getting intense lately in the past like month or two. I've been told that I jump around a lot. Obviously I talk really fast, because it's also like sort of when I talk too fast or I jump around or blah, 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 it's taken away from the climbing. And that's obviously something I sort of forget a lot is, we're watching the climbing and there's actually things that to be thought about with just the visuals and not just the voice. So yeah, we'll try to make it better going forward, and let me know what you think. But yeah, with this new voiceover style, like I'm sure it'll need some fine tuning. Like this was my first go at this style of voiceover, so any feedback is always very helpful. Yeah, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.